What happens when you find a deal that looks great on paper, but once you dig in, once you dive in, once you get in contract, the challenges start piling up. And guys, gals, this is what happens on every single deal. There's no easy deal here. And in this episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes on my latest deal that I spoke about a couple episodes ago, a 6-unit deal in Plant City, Florida. We are in contract to buy this thing. It is go time. I can only talk about this because this is not a syndication. Therefore, I can share some details. I'm not going to get too crazy. But what I really want to share is how difficult and what really happens behind the scenes, from the mood swings, the chaos, the beautiful things that happen, the teamwork, the team fail, etc. So today, there is no fluff, no sugarcoating, just raw reality of what it takes to make a multifamily deal happen. Stay tuned. All right, fam. So the 6-unit deal that I mentioned, we had in contract in Plant City. We still have it in contract. And remember that I mentioned to you, if you recall, a couple episodes ago, that this deal was a cash offer, meaning we had to close very quickly. How do you close quickly? Well, you either have the cash or you go to a hard money or private lender to get the cash. We are going hard money. Sometimes it makes sense to go hard money, sometimes it doesn't. A traditional bank is where you typically want to go, or Fannie and Freddie agency lending is where you typically want to go if you have the time to do so and if the asset is eligible for that type of financing. Now, the 6-unit that we're walking into is not necessarily eligible for that type of financing due to its condition. Not that it's in terrible shape, but a bank wants to see it performing a little bit better before they put the best type of debt on it that they can offer. So we're going to go into this thing with hard money, which allows us to do a very quick close. In this case, we said we were going to do it in 2 weeks. By the time we got it under contract and finalized the contract, it was really 1 week that we had to close. And we just got an extension, thank God. And I'm going to go into that for another couple of weeks. Now, after holding this for 6 to 12 months or so, we are going to refinance into a better type of debt, most likely community bank, the one that we've been working with extensively over the past few years down in Florida, Fairwinds Federal Credit Union. So let's jump into this. This deal was $450,000 asking price, and we went in at asking price for 450K. Now, after inspections, we found some damage that we wanted to have addressed by the seller, and the seller agreed finally to drop the price or provide us with seller credit, rather, of $50,000, making the overall full in amount $400,000. Something you need to note when you're analyzing your deals is that when it's a $400,000 purchase price, let's say there are always many other fees involved. Let's start with closing costs. Closing costs should be anywhere from 2 to 3 or even 4% of the purchase price. Be very careful that you are budgeting for the right amount of closing costs. And in this case, we're budgeting around $30,000 for closing costs and potentially more. On this particular deal, we are actually paying the broker fees, which is not typical of 3%. Typically, the seller pays the broker fees. It was one of the strategies that we utilized to get into this deal because we knew it was a good deal. Now, so we're in contract for $400,000, essentially 450 minus the $50,000 of seller credit that we're getting at closing. Aside from the closing costs that we're going to have to pay and the broker fees, we have to pay legal fees for a closing attorney because we want this done properly. There might be transfer taxes and things like that, and prorated taxes and insurance. We might have to put some money in insurance, etc. We might have to hold some money in the bank to show that we can pay our debt service and pay our debt, essentially, depending on the lender, obviously. So you got to just make sure you understand what you have to bring to the closing table. You'll typically get a good term sheet from a lender, the lender that you're working with, and that should be sufficient, but also budget for a little bit more just to have that cushion there in case things go south. You also have to budget for your capex. So it's not just $400,000. There's obviously closing costs and more, and our all-in cost would probably be closer to 500 plus $1,000, including our capex budget. Okay. Now, in order for us to get that $50,000 seller credit, we had to agree to a 1 week closing date and release our EMD of $10,000 that was sitting in escrow hard money at this point. Once we released it, it is hard money to the seller. Now, this is extremely risky if you don't know what you're doing. I have been in this situation before where we lost our $50,000 deposit plus all the other fees we paid for, like inspection and legal fees. And on this one as well, we are already in for it for $10,000 for the deposit. We are also in a couple of $1,000s for inspections and surveys. We also have to order an appraisal, which has just been ordered. So it's another $4,000 or $5,000, depending on how quickly you need that appraisal done. And we need it rushed. Now we also have to pop in another $5,000. Why? Well, we said to the seller, okay, look, we need 3 weeks to close this deal. We can't close it in under 3 weeks. His response was, no, you said you could close cash on the 28th of February, 2025. And on the 27th, we began the negotiation or renegotiation saying, look, we cannot close tomorrow, not for financial reasons, meaning funding reasons, because he still doesn't know that we're working with a bank, which is acceptable. When you say you offer cash, it doesn't mean you're necessarily bringing cash from your bank account. It could certainly be hard money because you need a couple of weeks to close any deal for a few reasons. And he said, well, no, because you have to close tomorrow or whatever, because you said that you were going to close tomorrow. And we said, okay, here's the deal. We need to close in 3 weeks because we have a pending LLC that we just filed on Sunbiz, and Sunbiz legitimately is backed up a minimum of 10 days. So the LLC cannot be formed. His response to that is, well, you don't even need an LLC. But our response or reply to that was, yes, we do. We have 5 members of our joint venture that we need to ensure we have protected because we have 70 units right now in Florida. We cannot just expose ourselves to certain risks when if somebody were to litigate or come after us and they find the property is in our name. You can't do that. You got to have it in an LLC or a holding company, and then you typically want to have another entity managing that so you protect yourself even further. Regardless, we set up the LLC. Now it's just a waiting game. But we did finally negotiate a 3 week extension. And the only way the seller would agree to it was if we were to pop in another $5,000 of earnest money. I knew this was going to happen. This is part of negotiating, and we are confident that we can close in those 3 weeks. So we did it. If you want deals like this, if you want the best deal, if you want negotiating power, you have to be willing to take risks. Now, all that said, this was not my money that I put in, it was my partner's money. So, what does that mean? That means I didn't sleep for a couple nights. I lost sleep over this. I would prefer to lose my own money than my partner's money. I just didn't have any money to put into this deal. So I had to rely on my partners to put in that 10K for EMD. So what happens in this scenario is I start to panic and I really think of every strategy that we could do to get out of this deal, to make sure that the seller agrees to this deal, to entice the seller to listen to us and give us the extension, et cetera. And me and the broker that I'm working with on this particular deal worked extensively our position and our negotiation prior to speaking with the seller. And thank goodness it worked. There was a gray period of time when he was like, yeah, I'll sign it. And he didn't sign the addendum. And hours went by. And we knew that he was likely shopping this around, which is a no. You're not supposed to shop it around if you are in contract. And he likely was to see if he could get a better buyer. But in the end, it makes sense just to close with us if it's just a few more weeks. And it is still going to be very tight on our end. If the LLC is not formed by then, we are in big doo doo. Okay. We cannot request another extension at this point. He's not going to grant it. The LLC was really an excuse just to kind of help us, give us some more time and get our ducks in a row. But the LLC legitimately is backed up in Florida. So it was a valid excuse. But again, to the seller's point, we don't need to close it in an LLC. You could close it in your personal name, but we couldn't do that. We were not ready to close. We didn't have the funds set up, and we still kind of don't, but we do in a way. And that's a long story as well. Let's get into that a little bit. How are we funding this? So when you go for a bridge loan or a hard money loan, you can typically get LTC. LTC is loan to cost. So when you go with the traditional bank, they're going to give you LTV, loan to value. And to keep things simple, if the value of a building is $1 million, a bank will typically loan you anywhere from 50 to 75% of that amount. So that's a 50 to 75 LTV. Now, if a property is worth $1 million, but the after repair value, because there's a lot of issues and you need to do a lot of value add and capex, if the ARV is, let's say, $2 million, the banks may loan you up to 80% of the LTC or 70% of the LTC. And let's say it was 70% of the LTC, they would loan you up to $1.4 million for that building. This means you can purchase the building for $1 million, let's say, and have $400,000 left that you can use for capex and rehab and renovations and sprucing up the property so that you can then go find and refinance into a more stable loan. And that's the key. Sometimes you have to go in with bridge or hard money because you need an LTC loan where you need loan to cost rather than loan to value because the value currently is not great. That being said, we're still getting an appraisal. You have to get a commercial appraisal done for a property that is a commercial multifamily property, 5 units or more. This being a 6 unit, we need a commercial appraisal. And here's the thing, the appraisal could come back terribly, and that can significantly impact the amount of loan that these lenders willing to give us, whether they're hard money or private lender or a local bank or Fannie Freddie. If the appraisal comes in low, they are not going to loan the full amount of your purchase price necessarily. If the appraisal is much lower than the value you're paying for, you could be in trouble. Now, an LTC loan is much more helpful in these scenarios because you can say that you need $200,000 in capex to get the property to that value that you would need it to be at. And you can use comps. You can go around and search comps and say to the bank, this is what it could be worth. The ARV, the after repair value, this is what it will be worth, etc. Here's another big tip. When you have a commercial appraisal done, you should be on site with that appraiser. And I've mentioned this in previous podcasts. And or you should have your broker there, and you should present that appraiser with a number of comps that you feel would help your case for an appraisal. So the appraiser can go in there and be like, oh, this is crap, it's worth $200,000. But you can fight that and be with the appraiser and say, no, no, no. Take a look at this, right up the block, take a look at this, and you can have all the paperwork ready and take a look at the evidence of the rents that you're going to get or are getting on this property or getting across the street, right? To show that the valuation is actually much higher. And you can have somewhat of an influence on these appraisers. So please do not just let the appraiser go there and do their thing. You need to be in the appraiser's ear, you, a team member, and or your broker with evidence in hand, paper that you can send, either give it to them on site or email it to them and have a really in-depth conversation about your case. It might even help you to make a video of your underwriting and share that with the appraiser and include case studies. If you have other units that are operating much better and that are worth much more, share that if it's nearby and if it's an actual comp. Okay, so at this point, I can breathe a little bit. We got our extension approved. We did not lose our initial 10K EMD. Now we are in the next phase of things. We have an investor ready to go. We have a partner that is going to be jumping in this with us for the full amount of the investment that we need. And we are almost set to close. At this point now, we're working on legal documents, which is an operating agreement. We are working with the lender to make sure I have all of my loan documents in order and in line. We just ordered the appraisal. We ordered the survey. We need to pop in some money for our attorney, likely, unless he is willing to just accept it at closing, which I'm fine with, whatever. We've worked with this attorney on 4 deals at this point, so he is definitely comfortable with us, and I'm comfortable with him. And if you need an attorney, his name is Nicholas Moore, and he's based out of Georgia, but he operates and can do any type of syndication, joint venture, and even has title companies in every state of the United States. So reach out to Nicholas Moore, Nicholas G. Moore, Nick Moore, my boy, located in Georgia, and he can help you out. And that's it. But I do need to mention this, guys. I spent one full day obviously panicking that we could lose this 10K EMD because it's happened to me in the past. Obviously panicking even more because it's not my money to lose, it was my partner's. And that hurts me. Obviously, I was panicking because I felt like this is just not worth it. Why are we taking such risk in this crazy environment when all the buyers backed out? Transactions are super slow right now. And that's for a reason. The market is slow. Valuations are super down. But for me, that's an opportunity. And for you, that should be an opportunity as well. If valuations are down and we're all in agreement that values are way down, why the heck wouldn't you buy right now? Granted, you're still going to lose sleep like I did. You're still going to question whether or not you should be involved in this game. You're still going to be exhausted and drained and feel like I can't do this and really want to quit. Don't quit. You got this. I'm here to support you. Now, if you have never rated or reviewed my podcast, please do so. It really would help out so people could find my podcast if you like it. If you don't like it, then don't do it. But please, if you do like this podcast, share it with somebody that you think could get value. I really intend on sharing as much in-depth information and knowledge as possible so that you can get the most value out of this podcast. It's my goal. I'm not doing this for fun. I don't love sitting here staring at the camera, talking into a microphone for fun. I'm doing it to provide people like me when I was starting out, or like me now when I'm looking to learn and grow. I listen to podcasts all the time. I'm trying to provide you with that type of information. So please leave a rating and review. You got to do it from your iPhone. So do that, please. And go to my website, smallactscommunities.com, and fill out the form to get my multifamily credibility kit. This kit was designed for everybody who is struggling to get broker attention. Brokers don't call me back. They don't respond to my emails. Well, get this multifamily credibility kit, and I guarantee that they will respond to you. Love you guys.
All right, and that's a wrap, Small Acts community. So I wanted to take a minute to say thank you so much for listening to the show. And if you liked it or got any value from it, it would really mean the world to me if you would share it with someone else and write a review. Remember, guys, keep sharpening those axes. Let's get out there. Let's crush it. Love you guys.